Hi guys, in this video we're going to be installing new lower ball joints on both the driver and passenger side of this 2003 Ford F150. Once you get the truck supported on a jack and jack stand, just take off the front wheel and we'll get started. Alright, once you have your wheel off, the first thing you're going to want to do is take off the cotter pin that holds in the protective cap that's over the axle nut. So what I'm doing here is I'm going to be prying off the cotter pin, which is a flat blade screwdriver. Just want to pry that straight. You can use some needle nose pliers, and that'll help pull it out. So once that cotter pin's removed, you just simply spin off or pull off the protective cap, and then you'll see the 35mm nut that's holding the axle shaft. So to get that axle shaft and nut off, you need to use a 1/2-inch impact gun. Mine is broken, so what I'm going to do is put the tire back on just temporarily with like 3 lug nuts, and then I'll lower the truck back on the ground and then pull off that axle nut with the breaker bar. Once that's removed, I'll jack it back up and then pull off the axle nut. Now that the vehicle is back on the ground, I'm going to use my 35mm socket to remove the axle nut using a torque wrench or breaker bar. In my case, my torque wrench is broken, so I'm just using that. Yeah, I'm not actually removing the axle nut, I'm just breaking it loose so that once the car's back up on the jack stand and the tire's removed, it'll spin off freely without an impact gun. Alright, with the vehicle back up on a jack stand, and I also have a jack up there supporting it, you'll need to loosen the torsion bar retaining bolt, which is right there. What I like to do is just spray paint it with either black or silver paint just so I can see where it's currently threaded to. So I'm going to spray a little spray paint here and then start removing, not fully removing, but loosening up almost all the way that torsion bar bolt. Alright, next step is to remove the tie rod, and so I'm going to pull out the cotter pin and castle nut, and you can either just usually tap the ear of the control arm to pop loose that tie rod end. I have a special tool which just separates it. Alright, now that we have the tie rod out of the way, I'm going to take off the sway bar end links. Once that sway bar end link is out of the way, it'll make it a lot easier to remove the actual shaft from the vehicle. Okay, here's a good look of the driver's side front axle shaft that we'll have to remove next. There are, I believe, 7 12 millimeter bolts. They're 12-point bolts. And you can see that top one there I marked with a little white out, just so I know the orientation of the axle shaft once I put it back in. So I have my 12 millimeter socket, and I'll be breaking that loose with my impact gun. Okay, you can see now the axle shaft bolts have all been removed. There they are on the floor. And now what I'll have to do is, from the outside, I'll take a small sledgehammer and just lightly tap on that axle shaft once I fully remove that 35 millimeter bolt. And that'll somewhat loosen the axle shaft so I can pull it out from behind. So what I'm going to do now is get my jack, and with a couple blocks of wood I'm going to support the lower control arm. And I still have the floor jack underneath the frame of the truck, so always keep that there. But I do have this lower control arm supported so that now we can tackle the lower control arm ball joint bolt. Same deal as before. Basically, you got to break off or remove that cotter pin, and once that's removed, you can then spin off your castle nut. So here's a shot of the ball joint removal tool I have wrapped around the lower ball joint. So I'm just tightening up that bolt until you hear it pop. And then you know your ball joint is now separated. Now with the ball joint free from the spindle, you can see how much play was on that ball joint. It's really bad. So I'm just going to separate a little further and pull that spindle out of the way so that I can get my ball joint puller tool in there. It's kind of a big tool, so you will need a little bit of clearance to get that to fit. Okay, on the top of these ball joints is a snap ring that retains the ball joint in place. Before you use the tool to remove the ball joint, you have to pull off that snap ring first. I'd recommend using snap ring pliers, but if you don't have them, you can separate it just by using a couple flat blade screwdrivers, needleless pliers, and a hammer. Just tap it out. But definitely the snap ring pliers are the way to go if you have them. And here's the snap ring removed, so you can see kind of what that looks like. Okay, here I'm going to use the ball joint puller, and it comes with a couple different cups, a retaining plate, and the actual clamp. Alright, so once I got the tool on there, I got it cranked pretty tight. I'm going to take my sledgehammer and pound on the top of that tool to kind of break loose, shock loose the rust. And then it should be freely able to press through. And she's out. It's the old one. It's a new one. There's a rope right there.